This is the Daily Freakouts, and there's a little bit of that in the ear. There we go. That's made it better in my ears, and it's not zoomed in again. God damn. Can I change that? Fantastic. There we go. That's better. I just want to zoom it in, not because I necessarily want more of my face, but I want less of background. I don't think you don't need to see where is it the door just here. That's not interesting. So that's why I'm trying to do that. The really cool thing about having a podcast type stream that you're trying to do like this and have no one watch it or listen to it is that no one's watching or listening to it, which means I can make mistakes and stuff like that, and it's really not that big a deal. And people can boo me as much as they like. That I should move that. I shouldn't put that there. Do you guys just leave Coke cans around after you've drunk them and they're sitting there? I really dislike how much I do enjoy or do embrace a Coca-Cola every now and again. It's they're one of the worst companies on the planet, and it's terrible. But at the same time, the flavor is nice. The bit of caffeine is fantastic, and every other cola that I've tried just hasn't been quite as good for some reason. I remember one time in country Victoria somewhere, there was a little store, and they had an off-brand local cola, and I was like, you know what? I want to support local small businesses. I'm going to try that. So I tried it, and it wasn't that great, and I didn't enjoy it that much. Whereas for some reason, the Coca-Cola flavor really did hit the spot for me. Whether that's because of years of drinking Coca-Cola or not, who knows? But I'd prefer not to drink Coca-Colas, but unfortunately, they're kind of everywhere, and sometimes they're the way to go. I read or heard somewhere recently that the reason why cola is such a good drink with your food is that it cleanses your palate, so that every time you then take a bite of your food afterwards, it tastes sort of new and good again. I'd be really curious to do some kind of actual experiment on that and see if that's the case, because I'm not sure it is. I'm really not sure that it is. Oh, good. The batteries on the sampler have gone low just after I've turned it on and played a couple of effects. So we might not, and probably won't, have any outro music. I do have instruments here, so maybe I should try and play the outro as we go. This is the Daily Freakout, even though I used the wrong headline or wrong screen before. This one here, I've done it as the Bobby Freakout Hour. I should change that to the Daily Freakout. Or I should just do the Bobby Freakout Hour daily and for an hour. Who knows? If you're watching this, comment. Tell me. What do you reckon? Should I do a proper hour long every day? Or should I do Daily Freakouts and then Bobby Freakout? Who knows? Anyway, that's a quick change. It is Monday the 2nd of February. The year is flying along. A podcast that I used to listen to always talked about how on your grave you will have the day you were born and the day you died. And then in the middle there'll be a dash. And he always said, build that dash. What are you doing for your dash? And within that, he would talk about how the year just flies by. It's already February, and it's like, what have you done? Have you done anything? That's 1 month down. You've only got 11 to go for the year. What are you going to do now? And even though I've started turning away from that podcast because the positives outweigh the negatives outweigh the positives, unfortunately. I still think that some of the theories and philosophies behind what are you doing with your life, get on with it, do something, are pretty good. They're all pretty good. Be self-sufficient. Don't rely on as many other people as you can. That being said, though, in my life, I really probably should rely on some other people a little bit more, because the isolationist in me struggles a bit sometimes. But what do? You struggle a bit, and you think to yourself, oh, I should rely on people. And then you rely on people and they fail you. Whether they fail you because they actually screwed up and did something wrong, or whether you just think it's a failure, you know what I mean? Does that... I've come to a realization about myself that I don't trust other people at all, because every single person I know that I've ever trusted has done something to varying degrees that has felt like it went against me and ruined my trust. Whether it's simply a matter of somebody not giving, or when you get that feeling that someone doesn't fully express how they truly feel about you. An example of that is that I have in the past told my mother that I feel like she thinks I'm a disappointment, or I didn't live up to her standards and stuff, and she'll go, oh, no, and I'm like, no, seriously though, that's how I feel. Like, what are you doing that causes me to feel that way? How am I interpreting things so badly that that's the case? Whereas I would prefer her to say something like, you know what, yes, when I was a youngster and I wanted children, I did not imagine having a child like you. Because that's a pretty truthful and honest thing. And you've got to suck it up as a human these days and accept the fact that you probably are, to a certain degree, a disappointment to people, because we all have ideas in our head about what we think other people should be. If you're a parent and you have kids, you have an idea in your head. This is what I want my kid to be. I want them to be either a successful this or that or whatever. And it's unlikely that they're going to completely live up to that. Even a famous athlete or whatever, or business person, even their parents probably had a different idea of what they wanted their kids to be when their kids grew up. So parents maybe should just not have ideas of what they think their kids should be, maybe. I don't know. But I don't trust people, and that creates the isolationist in me. Because, yeah, you should trust people, but at the same time, people can't be trusted. I can't be trusted. And I'm not talking about like backstabbing or anything like that, but I'm probably not going to come through for you if you rely on me. Maybe there's a time when something bad happens and I can step up and be good and helpful. That'd be great. I hope to. But there's a good chance. That's great. I love that. I've had that light on all... Oh, God. I've had that light on all morning whilst I've been prepping, and it just decided to die. So hold on 1 second, because I've got this other one here. Talk amongst yourselves. How's that? Is that any better? Got this one. Just turn all the lights on. Don't look at my boobs. Wow. Professional as hell. If you're listening to this, one of the lights that I had in here decided that its battery had run out, because I try to run off... I try to do this as solar and as off-grid as I can, partly because electricity bills are stupid at the moment and my income doesn't match, and rent's high and all that kind of stuff. And secondly, because I like the idea of relatively free energy. I really feel like my solar panels have paid for themselves, because I've had them for, I think, 5 years now. Actually, it's 2026. Is it? It's 2026, isn't it? That's crazy. That's crazy. I still think of 2020 as not that long ago. That is actually... Sorry, yeah. So I'm in my current place where I'm trying to move out of, because I can't afford it anymore, because in order to satisfy the investors, they just keep raising the rent on me. I'm on 9 years, pretty much. In April, I think it is, I'll have lived here 9 years. And I'm at that stage where I'm thinking back and I'm being nostalgic about the place, and I go, wow, there are different eras within the time that I lived here. There was the time when I first moved in and I was like, right, I'm going to be really minimalist living here. And then over time, I've just gotten more and more furniture and more things. And I filled up all the space, and that's bad, because I don't need most of the things that I've got. It's just toys and trinkets to a certain degree. And I forget that 2020 COVID lockdown was 6 years ago now. It just, really, you forget that it's COVID-19. It was 2019 when they discovered it at the end of 19. And that was quite a while ago now. So much has happened in the time since then. And I still long for the days when there was no one down here, because I live in a touristy area, and because I'm as I said, a bit of an isolationist, don't really like being around people that much. I really enjoyed the fact that there was no people down here, and the dogs and I could go for a nice long leisurely walk on the beach, and it was all good. So I actually I was one of the lucky ones that had a pretty good COVID. I actually had a good 2020. Whereas now I have to go to work, and I have to interact with people, and I have to put on the face, and you have to mask it up and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, this is the Daily Freakout. Completely unprepared, or not completely, but very unprepared. And I definitely should have organised a lot more for this. And I've timed it perfectly again, where I am halfway through recording and need to go to the toilet. And because I can't really play songs and stuff because of copyright and that, I can't even give myself a break. I should have had a clip ready. I should have done something. Fantastic stuff. Everyone, I mean, I don't know about your social media and stuff, but my social media is absolutely full of them at the moment, of course, about the absolute insanity that's happening in America. My condolences to Americans, pretty much. It's so stupid to paint an entire nation in one light and say that they're all this and they're all that, because there are great Americans. I've said this. I do say this every now and again when I'm recording myself, that Americans are great. There are some great Americans, absolutely wonderful people. The art that comes out of America, the loyalty of a lot of Americans, there's just so many great things that have come out of the United States. And I like to think of the United States, somebody once said it was even though it's a republic or an attempted republic or whatever, democratic republic, whatever you want to call it, it's an experiment. And the experiment of leaving aside queens and royalty, kings and queens and royalty, and governing themselves, and having an agreement between these different states and these different places saying this is how we're going to do it. And unfortunately, that American experiment is failing, because they've allowed somebody to take over, or a group of people to take over. And it really does feel like Game of Thrones. It's Tywin Lannister saying you can't have whores, and then Tyrion finds him in bed with a whore. Obviously, that story is much more detailed than that, but you know what I mean. It's the thing. It's Joffrey Baratheon being told, you're the king, you can do anything you want, or what have you, and then he just acts like an absolute douchebag. And lies are put out about him, about how noble and generous he is. And it's all just these rich families trying to get power and trying to one-up each other and blackmail each other. And the idea that, like, it's very, very common online. You see people say, oh, but what if Bill Clinton was in the files? And it's like, no. Most people don't have this loyalty where they're willing to sacrifice reality. If the Clintons or if I shouldn't talk about America because I'm not there, so let's talk about Australia. If any kind of long-running family in Australia was constantly in politics and stuff, and they were doing good, and then it turned out that they were also doing bad, I don't think anyone here would really try to side with them, even though the evidence said that they were bad. We don't have political dynasties quite like that. We have people who have become politicians and become sort of above everyone else in that sort of political kind of way, where people are like, oh, this is my favourite, that's my favourite. And it's like, but they're not they're still politicians. We've currently got a woman called Pauline Hanson, who is an absolute troglodyte, in my opinion, who is getting some more popularity, it seems, with the vocal minority, I hope. And people are like, oh, she's the one for me. And I'm like, no. None of them should be the one for you. It's literally, you're going to do a job for me. How good are you going to be at that job? If you're not good at it, you're out. I was very pleased by our most recent election last year. Was it last year? Yeah. When the party that I didn't like, the Liberal Party, didn't get in because I thought that they were going to be bad. And it was this landslide towards the Labor Party. And even though I didn't vote for the Labor Party, they were still my preference above the Liberal Party and some of the other parties. And I'm like, okay, cool, they're in, that's great. But we need to keep watching them. They've signed up with Planetair or Palantir, whatever it's called, for security, like computer security stuff. And you do a quick search on that. Again, if I was more prepared, I'd have a nice graphic or something, or a news article that would come up. They're a terrible company. We shouldn't have signed up and gotten in bed with them. That's terrible. That's very, very not good. So the current government isn't great. Our current Prime Minister is so Catholic or religious that he went to the inauguration of the recent Pope. That to me is terrible. That's disgusting, because the Catholic Church is a disgusting organisation full of pedophiles. Some of the people that are still there were around when all the pedophilia was happening, which makes them either pedophiles or associates of and defenders of pedophiles. Same as what's happening in the United States at the moment. All of these people are still there. And for a world leader, especially in a country like ours that is predominantly non-religious, or at least we don't have one religion that's so dominant over any of the other ones, which is my preference. I don't like religion. If you want to practice your religion, go for it, but keep it to yourself. And I will call you out on how absurd and ridiculous your religious beliefs are, just like you should call me out if you think that my beliefs are ridiculous. It's how we get better beliefs. Somebody points out how ridiculous they are. At one point I was firmly anarchy, but then I was like, wait a second. Anarchy probably means no police force. And I think that a police force is something that is somewhat necessary when you're living in a community and a society. I think judges and courts and the legal system is somewhat necessary in a community, because you have disputes and you have arguments and stuff, and we need to have people in places to settle those disputes and arguments. Makes sense that to me. So I just like the idea of no rulers and stuff like that. So to have a prime minister siding with that it's wrong. I don't like that. So I'm going to call, even though I like the fact that Albanese is our prime minister at the moment, because most of what he does I like, I'm going to call him out on the shit that he doesn't, because I'm not some Labour all the time kind of person. I have predominantly voted Greens in my life, which is meant to be the hippie party in a way. But I one time went to a Greens event and was somewhat disappointed, because it literally just felt like more politics. It didn't feel like they were any different to the other politicians, because I remember there was just some, as the guy was doing a speech, he made some little comment of derogatory towards the other guys, and it's like, dude, really? Just get above that. Come on, don't play politics like that. Maybe that's how politics always has to be. But yeah, we have to keep these people honest, as they say. I think it was there was the Australian Democrat Party at one point who was like, keeping the bastards honest was their line, their tagline, and that's what we need to do. We need to keep people honest, and we need to keep politicians honest of all kinds, in all areas, in all countries, no matter what. Because the minute these people that get power corrupts absolutely, as they say. No, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, something like that. But the minute you get power, you just get, even if you're a boss in a small business, with the most minimal amount of power, it'll still corrupt you a little bit. It still gets into the thing where you You tell someone to do something and they do it, and then you go, oh, that felt good. Cool. And we got it done. Great. And the next time you tell them to do something, then you tell them to do something a bit more, and it builds up. And you need a check and a balance in there at some point where you go, I'm not going to get to the point of being an absolute creepy person by making them do something that's wrong. And that's obviously an exaggeration. There are a lot of good bosses and small business owners and stuff where absolute power in that kind of situation doesn't corrupt. So let's be honest. But it will. There are certain people out there that it definitely happens to, and we need to keep those politicians in check. One thing I'm going to try and do in the future of these podcasts is have a list of what I'm actually going to talk about, because I realised that I've just gone on a complete ramble. We've got nothing of substance here, and it's been a lot of fun. Going to cut it a little bit short today because I'm in the process at the moment where I'm finding a struggle to be motivated. And so just getting up and doing it was the plan today. So if you've listened all this way or you've watched all this way, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Give me some feedback if you would like. Throw a comment up there, good or bad. Should I do this? Should I do that? Be more organised. No, I like the ramshackle nature of it, all that kind of stuff. Because the only way out of terribleness I can see for myself is doing something like this. So that's the goal. We're going to try and do that at some point. So let me grab the red guitar and move a few things. Oh yeah, so professional. This is great. This happens on all the big shows. I'm sure it does. Can anyone remember the chords for the... Unfortunately, the ukulele's in the other room, so I can't think. I think it was C, D, G. So yeah, the Daily Freakout, even though the title credit screen says the Bobby Freakout Hour. I'd love thoughts if you've watched this far. If you haven't, you are probably in the majority because only a few people watch these, and the runtime that YouTube tells me suggests that they don't watch all of it or anything. So I'm just screaming to the void. I saw a comment the other day on something somewhere about finding old or media that no one's ever watched or that has a very small amount of engagement and discovering it, and it's like amazing that you've got all this information or all this stuff. I'm hoping maybe one day in the future some of these might get discovered. So if you're watching these in the future, thank you for watching when you're watching, and I hope that they're interesting to you, because it's I'm just screaming into the void at the moment. And these episodes are not going to be the greatest, so they're probably not something that I'll keep around. They might get deleted. And they might never make it, so. Anyway. This is the Daily Freakout. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Check out the social medias. Like, subscribe, all that crap. Give me your thoughts, give me your opinions, and I will see you tomorrow.